Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon.
I'm Sean Yao.
The big stories tonight. Some senators are not pulling punches as their world war with Chinese diplomats escalate. They find an ally in the Foreign Affairs Department who believes Beijing's officials should dial down the attacks.
And one lawmaker says he has proof that President Bongbong Marcos benefited from flood control projects and has an alleged bagman right inside Malacanang.
And a key figure in Philippine government joins us to help make sense of recent happenings on the political front, from flood control to impeachment. We promise a frank conversation for you later.
And in the Philippine Constitution, the territory is there. So if you're a government official, you should be careful because you have taken an oath to defend the Constitution.
We cannot allow those misinformation to mislead the public or undermine bilateral relations. One may easily win a confrontation with a smaller neighbor, but you hurt your relations with the neighbor for a long time.
Sino ba sila? We know they're, as a matter of fact, sana naisip din po nila na they're visitors here in our country.
Philippine senators are not backing down as their verbal exchange with Chinese embassy officials intensifies. Even local officials from a contested island in Palawan are pushing back after they were declared unwanted by Beijing. Tonight's big story from Mobile Journal Merimon Reyes.
Ba't namin sila papakinggan? Sino ba sila? We know they're, as a matter of fact, sana naisip din po nila na they're visitors here in our country.
Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chair Erwin Tulfo did not mince words when responding to recent jabs from the Chinese embassy. Beijing's diplomats in Manila plain rejected the upper chamber's resolution, condemning the attacks of Chinese officials against their Filipino counterparts. Tulfo insisted the Chinese embassy must respect Philippine laws. He added it is the prerogative of senators to speak freely and air their stance on issues besetting the country, including disputes involving the West Philippine Sea.
Siguro kailangan nilang balikan yung Vienna Convention of 1961 na if you are a visitor here, a diplomat, dapat po respetuhin yung mga batas ng host country. Walang pwedeng magsabi sa atin na bansa na bawal tayo magpahayag na nararamdaman natin, bawal tayo magsalita.
Tulfo also took to the defense of PCG spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Commodore J. Tariela. He believes the Coast Guard official has the right to speak up, especially since he is one of the defenders of Philippine territory.
It's not malicious. The way I look at it, I mean, the person, the government official, is just expressing in the ikanga because he is covered, his statements actually is covered by our Constitution, the freedom of expression, the freedom of speech. Siguro kung diplomat po siya, doon po siya sa China, medyo iba hong kalakaran doon, iba ho siguro. Pero since sila po sa Philippine Coast Guard siya po ay isa sa mga nagtatanggol, yung kanyang ahensya, nagtatanggol ng ating teritoryo. So I guess may karapatan po siya magsalita because nagsasalita po siya doon. So ano po nakikita.
At this point, Tulfo is leaving the matter's resolution to the Department of Foreign Affairs. Still, he makes it crystal clear, no Filipino should be denied free speech and right inside their own country yet.
Kaya nga, yung sinasabi ko, let's leave that to the Department of Foreign Affairs. Siguro patawag niya yung ambassador, dapat sabihin ni Secretary Lazaro, tone down, kayo muna mag-tone down kasi bisita namin kayo. Hindi po ng trabaho ng Senado yun, hindi rin trabaho ng Coast Guard. Pero Commodore Tariela, he's just exercising yung kanyang right because it is embedded in our Constitution, the freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So kahit na naka-uniform siya, sabi, dapat naka-uniform siya. Hindi naman siya diplomat siya ay Philippine Coast Guard. Doon yun ang pananaw ko. So may karapatan siya magsalita. Yung agency niya is defending the West Philippine Sea right na patrolling it. So I believe sa lahat ng tao na pwede magsalita siguro ay ang tao na yan because yung agency niya ang nagmo-monitor, protecting our territorial waters. Anong bawal doon? Kasi naka-uniforme daw, pambabastos. I don't think so. Hindi ko naman alam na anong pambabastos doon. Karapatan yun. Eh, yun lang ang gusto ko naman sabihin na it is in our Constitution, this freedom of expression, freedom of speech.
For Senate President Tito Soto, it seems like Chinese embassy spokesperson Ji Lingpen wanted to silence the August chamber by calling senators hypocrites and ignorant, and all because they took a stand. Soto also blasted Ji's claims that Chinese diplomats are being intimidated while continuing to be disrespectful to senators, calling their resolution a mere political stunt. The Senate President says it's again, respect begets respect. For her part, Senator Risa Hontiveros said she and her colleagues will keep on using lawful instruments, including resolutions, to put everything on record. She invokes Filipino lawmakers' constitutional duty to do so, even if it means a million statements against their moves. For Senator Kiko Pangilinan, the Chinese embassy's boorish response to an official act of the Philippine Senate is in violation of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. He said it only proves that China is a bully and lacks respect for international law. To the DFA, he says, ensure that the Philippine Republic's dignity is upheld and that its relations with other states are in accordance with international law and principles. Former Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio has a word of caution though.
Those who take their oath of office, they say they will defend the Philippine Constitution. And in the Philippine Constitution, the territory is there. So if you're a government official, you should be careful because you have taken an oath to defend the Constitution.
Meanwhile, Kalayaan Palawan Mayor Bert Del Mundo reacted to the Chinese embassy's declaring him and 15 other local officials persona non grata.
Wala rin po akong plano talaga. Hindi minsan na magpaplano na mag-bisita sa kanilang teritoryo. Kasunod ay hindi po actually ako mahilig mag-travel. Mas gusto yung pagmamasyal sa Pilipinas.
China's sanction came after the Kalayaan Island Group's LGU declared Chinese Ambassador Jing Shuen persona non grata back in January. Vice Mayor Maurice Albaida is not worried at all by what he calls is the latest harassment by Beijing.
Well, initial reaction, salamat kasi kinilala ninyo na meron pong bayan noon sa mga katubigang inaangkin ninyo. By the statement na nirelease po ng Chinese Embassy Manila, ay talagang mas pinagtibay nito yung pagkilala nila sa ating pong bayan sa West Philippine Sea.
Chinese Ambassador Jing Shuen acknowledges false narratives and sparks of confrontations as talks of cooperation between China and the Philippines progress. At a Chinese New Year reception in Taguig, also attended by First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos, Jing said there's nothing that could not be settled by dialogue.
We cannot allow those misinformation to mislead the public or undermine bilateral relations. You know, one may easily win a confrontation with a smaller neighbor, but you hurt your relations with the neighbor for a long time. So nobody wants to resort to force. Nobody wants to fight with each other. That hurt our relationship for a long time. So that's why Chinese side always advocates dialogue. Let's sit down, let's talk, let's find ways to manage differences.
Kapatid mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, we are One News.
The Chinese embassy should be calmer and more professional in dealing with Philippine officials. That is the appeal of the Department of Foreign Affairs amid the verbal tussle between Chinese embassy and Filipino officials. The back and forth further escalated when the Senate adopted a resolution condemning attacks by Beijing's representatives, a document later on rejected by the Chinese embassy. And so the DFA steps in. Newly installed spokesperson for Maritime Affairs, Rogelio Villanueva Jr., called on the embassy to engage in healthy and constructive debate.
The DFA values candid and vigorous debate with its foreign counterparts on important issues consistent with the Philippines' democratic tradition. While indeed the embassies have the duty to respond, the DFA urges that such responses be made in a calm and professional manner, conscious of the mutual respect that must prevail in all diplomatic interactions. As such, we urge the Chinese embassy to be constructive in its statements towards a healthy dialogue despite major differences with a view to advance the overall bilateral relationship.
Meantime, Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Jing Chuan, has made a push for the passage of a code of conduct in the South China Sea, which will govern claimant countries in the contested waters. The COC has been one elusive agreement for almost 2 decades now and is on the wish list for passage as the Philippines chairs the ASEAN this year.
For both China and the Philippines, we all hope that we can speed up consultations on the what we call COC, Code of Conduct in the South China Sea. So reaching that agreement would lay a solid foundation for managing maritime differences and advancing bilateral relations. So why not? We have talked for more than 13 years. So this year we're really facing some opportunities that we can get something done. If we can reach just like a framework, that will be very beneficial for both sides. So as we advance China-Philippines cooperation, sometimes we also hear some noise from time to time. Someone, it seems that they want to spread false narratives, smear China, and stoke confrontation. It is the mission of our embassy to firmly, loudly, clearly say no to those people. We cannot allow those misinformation to mislead the public or undermine bilateral relations. At the same time, we will continue expanding practical cooperation using positive momentum to offset those noise until such distortions find no audience and no believers.
Meanwhile, it appears the palace is taking a more neutral stance on these recent developments. Particularly, it addressed the Chinese embassy's declaration of Kalayaan Island group officials persona non grata. Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro does not believe this is retaliation. It was the KIG municipality which first declared Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Jing Chuan, undesirable last month. Before that, they also declared Ching's predecessor, Wang Xilian, persona non grata back in 2023.
Kung ano man po ang naging desisyon at polisiya ng China ay hindi naman po natin to saklaw. Katulad din po ng hindi nila dapat masaklawan kung ano po ang nagiging desisyon ng administrasyon na ito.
Staying with Malacanang matters, Yusek Castro also blasted former presidential spokesman Harry Roque for allegedly being a fake news peddler. Roque earlier posted a photo insinuating President Bongbong Marcos is wearing a colostomy bag.
Nakita naman po natin ang video, yung kabuuan kung saan itinaas pa po mismo ng Pangulo ang kanyang mga kamay habang siya'y kumakaway sa ating mga kababayan at kitang-kita po na ang sinasabing larawan o ipinakitang larawan ni Harry Roque ay pawang kasinungalingan lamang.
Following his diverticulitis diagnosis, President Marcos can now be seen in more public events, the latest of which is the signing of a deal between the Education Department and governors. This is for the building of classrooms nationwide. Under this agreement, the DepEd will release funding while local government units implement the planning and construction of classrooms. President Marcos says this setup could help avoid ghost projects.
Kaya yung iba, madaling araw nang papasok at yung iba naman, gabing-gabi na. At saka pa lang lalabas sa eskwela. Nandyan na rin ay mga mag-aaral na nagkaklase sa mga basketball court o kuminsan sa ilalim lang ng puno. As of December of last year, we have a classroom shortage that amounts to a stunning 145,000 units. How we have allowed this to become such a bad situation, I cannot understand.
In other news, Vice President Sara Duterte's satisfaction rating went up based on the latest survey of the social weather stations. In the poll, 54% said they approve of the VP's performance, 26% did not, while 18% were undecided. In all, Duterte has a positive 28 net satisfaction rating. This is higher by 6 percentage points compared to her positive 22 net satisfaction rating in September of 2025. In fact, the Vice President had the highest rating out of all 4 officials in the survey. Senate President Tito Soto garnered a positive 16 net satisfaction rating, while Chief Justice Alexander Hesmundo got positive 9 and House Speaker Boji D positive 5. Last week, SWS revealed President Bongbong Marcos's neutral net satisfaction rating now stands at negative 3. The survey was conducted from November 24 to 30 last year among 1,200 respondents. That period saw a series of protests against corruption.
Meantime, the Philippines slid to a new low in the Global Corruption Perception Index. In the 2025 report released by Transparency International on Tuesday, the Philippines scored 32, which is 1 point lower compared to 2024. This score, however, ranked the Philippines 120 out of 182 nations, the country's worst showing since the index began using the 0 to 100 scale in 2012. In 2024, the Philippines was at 114th place with a score of 33 in the index, also lower than 2023's score. The report described the Philippines as a climate change impacted country following the flood control corruption scandal last year. The report based its ranking from external data, including the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, risk and consulting companies, and think tanks. The palace took the CPI results in stride, saying it was expected.
Expected po yan dahil binuksan po ng Pangulo ang issue tungkol sa korupsyon. So, kung binuksan ng Pangulo ang korupsyon, magkakaroon ng pag-iimbestiga at ito po ang ninais ng Pangulo, maimbestigahan. So, nagkaroon ng imbestiga na open ang mga natatago noon. Kaya nililinis po ng Pangulo ang nangyari noong nakaraan. Lahat ng dumi noong nakaraan, nililinis ngayon. So, expected po talaga na mabubunyag ang korupsyon na naganap noong nakaraan. At sa paglilinis pong ito, makikita po nila ang pagbabago para mas makita nila na pinipigilan at tinatanggal na ang korupsyon sa pamahalaan.
This is a big story on One News. When we return, we sit down with a consummate legislator who has almost seen it all: impeachment, uprisings, shifting alliances, and other political heartbreaks and breakthroughs. We speak to former Senate President Frank Drilon next. Do keep it here on One News. You're watching The Big Story here on One News. A third trillion peso march will be held on the 40th anniversary of the EDSA People Power Revolution. That's on February 25. This latest mass protest against corruption will be led by humanitarian group Caritas Philippines. The group will also be calling for an end to political dynasties in the country. The march will commence with a prayer vigil at the EDSA shrine. Protesters will then march towards the historic Club Filipino in San Juan before heading to the EDSA People Power Monument. The activity will culminate in a protest concert at Eton Centris in Quezon City.
EDSA People Power lives on through the Trillion Peso March. And nakita natin yun, nagkumilos yung mga Pilipino, hindi lang sa EDSA, pero sa iba't ibang parte ng Pilipinas.
Tayo yung may responsibilidad dito sa ating bayan. Oo, may mga mas guilty, may mga kailangan talagang ipanagot at i-chantan natin ng ikulong na yung mga korako. Pero lahat tayo may responsibilidad dito sa ating bayan. At siguro yung panawagan ngayong 40th anniversary ng People Power is ipaalala natin yun. Tayo yung may lakas.
And our guest tonight has seen the country's political history unfold with his decades-long experience as a public servant. And he shares this with the release of his autobiography, Being Frank, a Memoir. Welcome again to The Big Story.
Thank you very much, Sis, for having me tonight. Sean, good evening.
Good evening.
All right. Before we go to your book, if I may, because when you launched your book, you gave your thoughts on the political scenario, and you said that what is happening in the House, the impeachment complaints, are really tied to 2028. What impact would this have, Senator Frank, on whether the congressman will be inclined to support an impeachment complaint against Sara? Would it mean that, baka maging presidente, wag na lang muna?
Okay. Well, remember, says impeachment is a political event, not purely a judicial process, but a political process. Having said that, the president is our political leader, and therefore it would be it would simply not be valid to say that the president will not intervene and allow the congressman to vote. Come on. I was not born yesterday.
All right. So we expect this to be tackled and voted on in plenary.
That's
and the
correct.
Votes to be delivered.
Yes, we expect this to be voted in plenary. And if I were sitting and advising the president, this is a test also on his political strength. If this matter is not voted upon favorably by the House, then the more he's being a political lame duck is confirmed. If he cannot whip the House into line and bring it to the Senate. Now, having said that, and I've said this before, in the Senate, the rankings that you see in the Senate today is related to 2028 election. If Senate President Soto is replaced by somebody in the minority, chances of a trial is very slimmer because you assume that if the minority takes over, they would not want Sara to be tried in an impeachment complaint. On the other hand, if Tito Soto stays as Senate President, he has already made a statement that it will be tried forthwith. So it is clear that these investigations or these impeachments are all related to 2028. And when I wrote my book, one of the difficult areas to recall.
Para makita naman.
Okay. So it is I am one of the few politicians in the country who has undergone 2 impeachment trials. I mean, I sat as a senator judge twice. And I tell you, says Sean, that was a very wrenching experience for me. And as I would repeat, you know, an impeachment trial would require that you make a judgment, not only on the basis of the evidence, because that was the design of the system. Not all the senators are lawyers, and therefore you do not expect them to judge the evidence or the case in accordance with the evidence. But certainly they are tasked to at least see what the judgment should be. So sa akin, as long as you can look at the mirror and say, I am doing the best that I can, and malinis ang konsyensya ko, that's what is called for.
So this is your appeal to the senators, if it gets there.
Yeah, well,
This is how they should look
yes,
at
they should realize that the impeachment process is a mechanism under our Constitution, under our law, under our order, to make accountable officers account for their action. These people are not subject to, cannot be removed except by impeachment, and therefore I'm sure that my colleagues in the Senate are conscious of that. But it's good to remind them that this is something that would affect the stability of our political society. It's a task that they must do, difficult as it is, but that's part of their mandate when they got elected as senators.
Well, you were also in Congress, and we saw that Congress already junked the impeachment complaints against the president. So now they're going to get ready to discuss the 3 complaints against Vice President Sara Duterte. But the difference is from last year, is they have a baseline now of how it was debated upon, and they expect fairness. What are you going to be looking out for, Senator, when the House Committee on Justice debates and discusses the merits of the 3 complaints against VP Sara?
Well, it is natural that they project that they are basing their decision on the evidence that is being presented. In other words, they should do that. Otherwise, the credibility of the impeachment process is affected. And as I said, this is a process which would allow us to make accountable those people who are in public office.
And to your mind, do you think it's a foregone conclusion that an impeachment trial will happen?
No, it's not a foregone conclusion, because as we talk, I can assure you there are a lot of maneuverings to stop the impeachment trial. I mean, that's natural. And especially in the past few months, we saw how the Supreme Court intervened in the impeachment process and invoked...
Favoring Vice President Sara Duterte.
If you ask them, favoring the law. Because, look, it's very critical that, the Supreme Court has become very powerful under our Constitution because they are given the power to correct abuses of discretion. And any act, if they feel should be reversed, they invoke that power that they have under the Constitution to revise or to put down or to reverse decisions arising from grave abuse of discretion. And the impeachment vote, as we have seen recently, was reviewed on the basis of the assertion that there was grave abuse of discretion. This was not in the 1935 Constitution. That is why I was schooled in the old school, where political questions were not decided by the Supreme Court. They refrained from getting involved in what were considered as political decisions and limited themselves to purely questions of law. But that concept of a political question and refraining from getting involved in political questions has somehow been muddled by that power to correct grave abuse of discretion. So whether or not it's a political question or not,
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter. If they say there was abuse of discretion, they can get involved.
But does it make the process tougher now? The
As what?
process of, deliberation in the House, it's tougher now
Yeah.
to pass, to be able to agree on whether there is, it has substance, for instance.
Sufficient,
Yeah,
in
sufficient in form and substance, correct.
What's your question, sis?
Does it make it tougher, this decision of the Supreme Court?
Well, yes, it would be tougher, but at the end of the day, they vote in accordance with their conscience, I would like to think. And at least now, with the benefit of a decision of the Supreme Court, both on the main decision and in the motion for reconsideration, they now have the parameters as to how to do it.
It's clearer now.
Clearer, that's correct.
You know, one thing that, Senator Frank, may you hold the book up? One thing that I'd like to share with you, Sean, because I was at the launch.
Yes, I saw your IG story.
Chief Justice Panganiban said that he had been begging him to be part of the Supreme Court.
You know, he even wrote an op-ed about that in the
Yes,
Inquirer
it was
as
in the
well.
it was the preface of the book, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Oo.
What's your
Why-
question?
Why did you not want?
Well, because I wanted to maintain my schedule of being able to drink coffee in the hotel lobby after. But
Pag Chief Justice, bawal na ba?
having said that, I really, yes, I confirm that the President Pinoy talked to me to become Chief Justice. Art Panganiban, said I should help by accepting the offer to become Chief Justice. Members of the Supreme Court, the senior ones, called me and said, please be the first Chief Justice outside of the court, because we are now very divided and we want to unify the court. And that would also solve the conflict among the members, or the contest as to who should be the Chief Justice, because I was already 68 at that time and would just have held office for 2 years. So it was a perfect fit. But I said, Mr. President, people will now doubt me and the impeachment process, because they would say that the reason I voted to convict Chief Justice Corona was that I was interested. I would benefit, which is totally unfair, but you cannot avoid that kind of a perception and conclusion if, in fact, I accepted it. So, for those reasons, I declined.
Frank, that impeachment eventually was tarnished by some talk that there were favors given to the senators who voted. What do you know about this? And you say also that, the president, really, let's be honest. Behind the scenes, he's really, watching closely and influencing.
Well, as I said, we must understand the impeachment process in the concept that it is not a judicial process, but a quasi-judicial process which involves political players, which involves judgment based on your perception of the evidence, even if the perception is not that of a jurist or a lawyer, but based on your conscience. So, that's how it went, and therefore, criticisms as in the president influenced the decision. To me, it must be understood in the context of a political process.
But using, well, pork barrel funds, etc.
No, that the president used pork barrel funds to influence the decision, I reject that. Emphatically, there is no such thing.
Wasn't Jinggoy Estrada the one who disclosed it?
I don't want to pass judgment on Senator Estrada's statements.
One point that you did make, and you have made it, I think, in the videos that I saw also from your book launch, Senator, is that all roads now lead to 2028. It's already 2026. And you also mentioned, because you were seen in a photo with some members of the opposition as well, and you said...
That viral photo.
You said everybody must unite. Everyone in the opposition should unite behind one candidate. The question is, does there exist that candidate, in your opinion?
Is there what?
Does there exist that candidate that everyone can?
I don't know, it doesn't have to come from that group. My statement is we must have only one candidate. And that it doesn't have to come from that group. I emphasize that. And first, I was expressing a personal opinion, not the opinion of the group.
Yes.
Number two, the candidate need not have come from that group or did not come from that group. As long my position is, let's have only one candidate. Because let's face it, we accept the fact that Sara Duterte is leading in the surveys as of today. If she maintains that lead,
24 satisfaction rating.
right, 24.
The highest.
Yes. So that given that strength, if you have more than one candidate, the less chances you have. And while we are on the topic, I hear that there is this talk about the third force. Come on, I never believe in that. You must either be in the opposition or in the administration. If you go for the third force, you'll end up third.
Okay. Does that mean an alliance with the administration is something you would consider?
What we would consider is the common tie of good governance. I would put it that way rather than talk about alliances with one or the other group. Says 1 week is too long in politics, and we still have 2 years to go. And therefore, what I'm saying is, let's see what will happen. As to me personally, ang ating pag-usapan dapat ay mga prinsipyo. But we have to choose a candidate early enough who will stand by those principles.
Yun ang sasabihin ko sa 1 week is too short na sinasabi mo, pero naman...
Too long.
Too long. Huwag naman kayong
hindi.
petik para
in my view, in my view, the non-Duterte and non-Duterte forces must choose by the end of the year, so that at least you have 18 months to campaign until the election.
Kaso magkakasundo ba kayo sa proseso? Sa proseso pa lang, parang ang gulo na eh.
Hindi naman. Hindi pa nag-uumpisa ang proseso, paano mo naman sasabihin gugulo?
Well,
that is why my theory as a political observer is that let us agree on a process. Why? Because there are no political parties today. There are no conventions, political conventions to talk about. There are no primaries that is done in America. So we must have a process of choosing who our candidate should be.
Do you think we should go back to that two-party system, and how can we do that, if ever?
Okay. You ask me, in a presidential system, you have a two-party system is fitted. A multi-party system is very effective in a parliamentary system because the politicians would have to maintain the alliance. Otherwise, they go on election, which they don't like to do.
Right.
So in my amateur way, I would like to think that if we are to maintain a multi-party system, let's go parliamentary. And if we have a presidential system, let us only have a two-party system. How can we do it? All right, not an easy question to answer. We have tried some methods in the Senate, like state subsidy for political parties, but the people will not accept that easily. We must show that indeed the political parties the people will benefit by a stronger political party system.
Is it true that the Liberal Party, before it was in power, when Pinoy became president, was pushing for that reform?
I filed the bill.
Oh, kaya nga. Pero, hindi nyo naman binoto when you already had the numbers. Bakit ganon?
No.
What happened there?
That conclusion that we had the numbers, I don't know if that is correct. In this particular bill, I do not know if it is a correct assessment that we had the numbers, because the difficulties of having 24 political parties in the Senate, each would have his own agenda, and whether the agenda would favor voting for a party system which would include subsidy, I do not know. I have no answer to that. But the concept of having a two-party system, to me, is important to have stability in our political system, in a presidential system of government. Otherwise, politicians will keep on changing clothes, changing parties.
Obviously, that's what we see now.
Yes, because there is no consequence of the changes in political party in a presidential system. We can change political parties without any adverse effects. But in a parliamentary system, you tend to maintain your party, because if you change it, you'll have an election.
Yeah. What's your preference? Parliamentary or presidential?
If we are to maintain a two-party system, we must have, I'm in favor of presidential system.
Okay.
But, if people would like a multi-party system, I think there is no choice but to become parliamentary.
Well, a lot of people say that the 1987 Constitution was actually intended for that in the beginning, and then...
It's what?
It's intended for it befits a parliamentary system as well.
I don't know how to describe the 1987 Constitution. It's,
but let's bring it...
That is why I am open to have a constitutional convention, to take a second look. This is already from 1987, 13 plus 26.
Kailan yan gagawin?
I'm sorry?
When will we when?
I could no longer vote for whether or not we can amend, because I'm no longer a member of Congress.
Yes, but what do you think? When could we do that?
When could we do that?
In the 2028 elections, you think it should be included?
At the very least. At the very least. That should be the timetable that we should be looking at.
And the legislature then has to pass a measure to include that, to make it into law.
Well, no, the Congress at that point simply enacts a measure that will amend the Constitution through a constitutional convention. You need not, or you should not, you cannot bind the convention as to the topics to tackle.
But we have a national allergy to changing the Constitution.
What?
May allergy tayo sa pag-change ng Constitution.
That's right.
Kasi we suspect hidden
Yes.
agenda.
But can we ask you, Senator, about the reforms that were recently put forth in the LEDAC by the President, among them, of course, the party list reform and the political dynasty. Would these two reforms change the game?
It depends on the President. Simply putting it in the LEDAC is not enough, because you need to push. You cannot let the forces do their own thing. So being in the LEDAC, to me, is just one step. It's the form. The substance is you must take a firm hand in having a convention amending the Constitution.
Okay. Now, Frank, let's go to your book.
Thank you. We have exactly 30 seconds.
No, well, congratulations on this effort because really we need, especially the youth, an account of our contemporary history, especially naglipa na ang mga propaganda, fake news, historical
Tama po yan.
revisionism.
The Constitution was enacted before all of the social media. And therefore, there's a lot of things that you can say. But that is why I think it's about time that we take an overall look as where we are, a complete look as to an overall look as to where we are, and do what is necessary if we are to move forward. As I said in the interviews, it's my intention in part of my intention in writing the book is to show the need for us to follow the rule of law, not getting shortcuts. The bombing of my house is a shortcut.
It opens with that, actually.
Yes.
So this is
Very
like a
exciting,
thrilling
yeah.
read.
It's like Jason Bourne.
It opens with a bombing.
Bombing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the second chapter is the attack on my office by the KMU in the Department
I
of
witnessed
Labor.
that.
Masama yung uno.
Oo.
Wow. Naalala ko
Baby ka pa ata.
Bata pa ako, pero naririnig ko yung daddy ko sa bahay. Lagi niyang paninig. So, Senator, where is this available? Is there still copies available?
Yeah. How do we buy?
No, there's an order form that is. There's a.
Your staff takes care
yeah.
of it. It's online. You
That's
have to
correct.
fill up an
Yes.
order form online.
That's correct. There's an order.
This is self-published? Or did you have a
Yes.
published?
Yes, it is self-published.
Wow.
And the paper is nice.
I'm sure publishers would have, run after you if they knew you were planning this.
Well, anyway, it's there.
Okay. Yeah. So, Being Frank, a memoir, grab your copy.
Thank
And
you.
finally, Senator, before you go, just an assessment of where we are now. Wala pang big fish na nakukulong. We're waiting. There's going to be the trillion peso march part 3 na.
It is critical that something should happen because as we go along, people will start to lose confidence in the process. And we do not know where it will lead. That is why when I was Secretary of Justice, I made sure that certain controversial cases, certain very high-profile cases, should be decided quickly because that goes into the confidence of people in our system.
All right. We thank you very much for your
My
time.
pleasure.
And your
This is
process.
my pleasure. Thank you very much.
That was former Senate President Frank Drilon talking about his book, Being Frank, a Memoir.
And we are pausing for another quick breather, but right after that, one lawmaker claims to have seen screenshots of messages between President Marcos and his so-called bagman, allegedly proving the chief executive's hand in flood control kickbacks. That and more stories still ahead. Keep it here on One News.
The big story is back with the Makabayan bloc condemning the dismissal of impeachment complaints against President Bongbong Marcos. It insists Marcos knew about budget insertions and more. ACT Teachers Party List Congressman Antonio Tino claimed seeing screenshots of messages between the president and resigned Legislative Liaison Head Adrian Bersamin. The messages were allegedly sent between December 2024 and July 2025.
Sabi po sa mensahe, complete na po ang 7.122 delivery sa akin. Tapusin ko po ang computation today. Kalakip nito rin ang detalyadong computation ng mga pinaggastusan ng 8 billion na kickback. On July 10, pinaabot ni Yusek Bersamin na may delivery siya ng 2 billion pesos para sa Pangulo. This is July 10. The President appears to be receiving kickbacks days before he went to Congress. Humarap siya rito at nagsabing, mahiya naman kayo. Sino po ang dapat na mahiya?
Caloocan 2nd District Congressman Egay Erice also claims to have seen these messages, but where did the screenshots come from? Tino and Erice pointed to Batangas 1st District Congressman Leandro Leviste, but when asked about it, the neophyte lawmaker was not as forthcoming. He repeated a previous statement in the vernacular, the truth will come out at the right time. Tonight, Erice revealed the younger Bersamin executed an affidavit inside Leviste's home in Batangas. This is in case the resigned liaison officer becomes a fall guy in the flood control mess. Erice added Leviste has more to show. And for Palace Press Officer Claire Castro, these allegations are simply not new.
Meanwhile, here are the other stories making headlines this midweek. Senator Ping Lacson reacts to Ombudsman Boying Remulla's remark that revisions to the Blue Ribbon Committee report were a product of politics. Lacson assured that all testimonial and documentary evidence gathered during the hearings continued to guide the committee's recommendations. He added that only minor words and phrases were revised in the leaked draft to clarify some vague descriptions. Meanwhile, Senator Loren Legarda plans to file a resolution to investigate convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's footprint in the Philippines. The measure will task the DOJ, the NBI, and Senate Committee on Women to look into reports linking Epstein and his associates to local networks. And over at the House of Representatives, the Makabayan bloc has also filed a resolution seeking an investigation into the alleged Philippine-based operations and connections of Epstein. In other news, the infamous Rolls-Royce Cullinan of contractor couple Curly and Sara Discaya has been sold for 29 million pesos. The winning bidder, Pio Velasco of theme park Igorot Stone Kingdom, said he wanted to, quote, preserve a piece of history. The Bureau of Customs failed to auction off 9 other Discaya-owned cars. And 3 days before Valentine's Day, the Social Weather Stations has this survey. It said 46% of Filipinos described their love life as very happy, 40% felt their romantic relationship could be better, while 14% said, well, they have no love life at all.
And finally, for our big picture tonight, it's a signage at the MRT3 Shaw Boulevard station, many called tactless. The signage reads, each step you climb is a gift to your heart, lungs, and muscles. The sign was placed near the coach reserved for women, PWDs, and seniors. Well, the MRT3 management has already ordered the sign's removal because, quote, the convenience of the commuters is always our priority. The management likewise assured all escalators in its stations are operational.
And that will do it for the big story on this midweek. And we are back tomorrow at 8 p.m. We will see you then.
Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a good night.
Well, coming up, we have lots of sports news. Play-by-play is up next with Andre Felix and Cheska Leton Calao. Hi, guys. Another packed night.
Blue and brown color combo is very strong tonight.
Oo nga, no?
Cheska's in brown, Cheska, brown and blue. And Sean is is that light blue? That's baby
it's
blue,
light
right?
blue, yeah. For the lighter version of you guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Happy Wednesday, and we'll see you tomorrow. Great show, as always. Good to see former Senate President Boss Frank Rolon. It's nice to see him, to get reacquainted. Sabi ko, parang bumabata lang, Ses, eh. Parang